Good morning, everyone. You know what time it is. It's time for another episode of Seattle Seahawks Free Agency Primer. And now we're swinging on over to the defense. And as of this moment, there are two positions where we really need help on the defense, in my estimation. And first, we're going to start with defensive tackle because we need something there. We basically don't have a three tech right now. Not a real one, anyway. We have, I think, four defensive tackles under contract right now. Three of them have played like less than 50 combined NFL snaps, I think. The only one who's actually credible is Poona Ford, and we already tried the three tech experiment last year with Poona. He ain't it. He's a one tech. We've got Al Woods and Brian Monet as outgoing free agents. Even if we keep one or two of those guys, they're one techs too. So what I'm trying to get at here is we need a three tech in the worst way. And I'll tell you right now, this is not a great offseason to be needing a three tech. I have surveyed the landscape. It's a desert right now. So given the fact that we don't have one outgoing, and we don't have a lot of good options in open free agency, this may be an area to aggressively attack in the draft. But before we get there, let's talk about our options. So I'm looking at defensive tackles here, the upcoming free agents. There's going to be a couple names that you're immediately going to be drawn to, right? Larry Ogunjobi and also BJ Hill. Both of the Cincinnati Bengals, they combined for 13 sacks last year. They got some QB pressure, and that's what we need. We need a defensive tackle that can get some pressure and get to the quarterback. But the Bengals have a lot of cap space because Burrow's still on that rookie deal. There's no reason for them to not bring both those guys back. So I'm going to tell you right now, if you're thinking about getting one of those two guys, you're probably going to be disappointed. I don't even really think it's worth talking about. Now, if somehow, some way, one of those guys shook free, I would be all over that, especially Ogunjobi. If he somehow hits the open market, he's probably going to command a lot of dollars. And I don't know if the Seahawks should be the team to offer those dollars, but they might need to be. Like, this is not a joke. We literally don't have anybody on this interior defensive line that can get a pass rush. But moving past those guys for now, because I don't think there's any way, let's try to figure out what else we can do here. Okay, so the first guy who kind of stands out here, and this is how you know things are bad, would be Quinton Jefferson. He's about to turn 29. He's a former Seahawk, had a pretty good year with the Las Vegas Raiders. If you take a look at what you got with him, he had a career year, kind of. He had 4.5 sacks. More than any season he had had over the previous several years. Generally speaking, he's always been a competent pass rusher. He's decent. He's solid. He can play. But he's probably pretty much realized his ceiling. He's a guy who might get you 5 sacks a year, which, I mean, it's better than what Al Woods was getting you. It's better than what Poona can give you, but it's certainly not anything to get too excited about. Now, sacks are one thing and pressures are another. He had 25 pressures in 2021. Not amazing, but better than anything that you've got right now or had in 2021. So I wouldn't mind getting Quinton Jefferson. I don't think he would cost that much. I think you're probably looking at something like, he would probably take like 1 year, $4 million, maybe 1 year, $5 million. I think that would be okay. For whatever it's worth, PFF, not a fan, 51.5. Which indicates to me that he's not playing the run that well, which is kind of a problem in this defense, but maybe it needs to be less of a problem than it is. Jefferson posted a better grade in 2020 with the Bills, 60. And while he was in Seattle, he did actually have some pretty good PFF seasons. He had a 72.5 in 2019. Excuse me. So it would not surprise me if we bring back Quinton Jefferson, reunite with the homie from Maryland, and try to address the three tech need that way. But there's a much more appealing option here, and it's actually not even listed in this chart because Spotrac lists him as a 5 tech. But in my book, this guy's a 3 tech. It's Akeem Hicks. Now, we just brought in Sean Desai as our associate head coach, and Sean Desai coached the Bears last year and has been with the Bears for several years. And Akeem Hicks has been a player that he's intersected with quite a bit during that time. So when a coach goes from one team to another team, you typically see them bring a player or two over. Akeem Hicks might be the player that he brings over. He's a free agent, and he's probably past his best days as an NFL player, but I think he has something left to give. He's missed significant portions of the last two seasons, which we certainly don't like that. But in 2021, he did have 3.5 sacks in just 9 games. 2020, he played 15 games, had 3.5 sacks. Not great, but made a lot of tackles, did a lot of good things in the run game. 2018 was obviously a career year for him. 7.5 sacks, made the Pro Bowl for the #1 defense in the league. And there's just a lot to like here. But the things that you don't like would just be the age and the fact that he is starting to diminish. In 2020, by the way, in 15 games, he did have 29 QB pressures, almost 2 a game. So if you're a big fan of using the pressure number to judge how effective a pass rusher is, that's not too bad at all. That's something that should make you go, maybe this guy does have something left. In 2021, he just was battling injuries. He only played half the season, right? So that's not too bad. PFF thought he played pretty well in 2021, 72.3. 2020, they gave him a 66. And 2019, they gave him almost a 77. This was a season where he didn't play that much, though. And of course, if you go back to 2018, you get to the season where he was a Pro Bowler. I think he was graded like a 90 or something. Yeah, 91.7. Obviously, this is an eternity ago at this point. But Akeem Hicks, for the right price, makes sense as somebody you can kick the tires on to see if they have anything left. So I would be cool with bringing in Hicks, but it really does depend on the price. So Spotrac estimates 2 years, $11 million. That sounds reasonable to me. Just 2 years ago, this guy averaged about 2 pressures a game. He wasn't getting a lot of sacks, but there are a lot of reasons why something like that might be happening. And to a certain extent, when you're playing with other really good defensive players, like, say, a Khalil Mack, there are less sacks for you to get because a guy like Khalil Mack's going to be vacuuming up some of those numbers. But that being said, he is about to turn 33. He is somebody who's missed a lot of games lately. 2 years, $11 million. I think I'm willing to take that risk. Maybe you backload it. Maybe you have low guarantees, so that way you're talking about a contract that you can easily get out of after 1 year if things don't go well. But my thing is, if you get Akeem Hicks, you can't stop there. And I'll get to what I mean a little later in this video, but it can't just be Akeem Hicks. If you want to bring him in, I think that's cool. I think it could work. I don't need Aaron Donald. I just need somebody who can get some pressure up the middle, better than what Puna was giving us last year, which was next to nothing. But if you bring in Akeem Hicks, I don't want him out there 50, 60 snaps a game. I want him in a rotation to keep him fresh. And as for how we get that, we need to bring in another high-profile interior lineman, and that may very well be one of the next couple guys that I go over. So the Akeem Hicks thing seems like it has a good chance of happening. I'm open to it for the right price. This would be fine. 2 years, $11 million. But any more than that, and you're going to be kind of counting on him to do a little too much for you, I think. Okay, so next up, we're going to have to talk about this guy just because everyone's going to ask about him. Namdakumu Sioux. Namdakumu Sioux. I'm going to call him Sioux. I don't care. One of the best defensive tackles of this era. Won a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay. Just concluded a pretty notable season statistically in Tampa Bay. Played fairly well numbers-wise. A lot of people are going to be talking about this guy. He is a free agent and probably looking to get paid now that he won a ring in Tampa. But it might not be a good idea to be the team that pays him. He's turned 35 now. He's getting older. Got a lot of wear and tear on that body of his. Honestly, he's definitely had a positive impact on the Buccaneers over the last 2 years, but the sack numbers haven't really been great the way they could be when in his Detroit days, and he was definitely on a pretty star-studded defense with a guy like a Vita Vea next to him. Your job as a guy like a Sioux is a lot easier when you have a guy like a Vita Vea next to him. Now, he's still a credible player for sure. He had 29 pressures in 2020, almost two a game. And then in 2021, he fell off to about 19. Still the same sack numbers, but overall not the same big impact. So this might be the right time. I'm sorry, the wrong time to be giving Sioux significant money. PFF hates this guy's guts, by the way. I don't know if they just dislike him personally because he's kind of a scumbag, but they gave him a grade of sub 50 in 2021, almost Jerron Reed levels. 2020, honestly, replacement level 61.8, just whatever. Last time they gave him a good grade was 2019 before Brady even got to Tampa Bay. So I don't know what to make of that, but I think it's the wrong time to be giving Sioux money because he's going to want money because he's a notorious player. Nam Damu Kong Nadamu Kong Sioux. I think I got it right, guys. I think I got it right. But to me, it's just the wrong time. I also don't like him because he's a prick. And not that that would be a deal breaker for me necessarily. If we were desperate and we needed somebody who could get some pressure up the middle, then I would get Sioux and I would live with it. But I don't like him. I'd rather not have to root for him, all things being equal. So I know a lot of people are going to talk about, should we get Sioux? Should we get Sioux? I don't think so. The cliff, it's probably looming. We might already be there. And Sioux being Sioux is probably going to want to get paid. He may want 8 figures a year. He may want a 10 million a year contract, and he might get it. He still has the reputation of being destructive, and I'm not going to say he's not, but at this age, the end could be coming at just about any moment. Okay, the final guy I'm going to talk about is not listed here because not okay. Actually, before I get to this last name, I'm going to say it right now. Not interested in Jerron Reed, and I don't think he would want to come back here. It did not end with him on good terms. So I'm going outside the free agent list to somebody who's still under contract, Grady Jarrett. So Grady Jarrett has made multiple Pro Bowls in the NFL. Very good defensive tackle. Went to a Super Bowl. Excelled under Dan Quinn. And lately, it's just been a struggle for the guy. 2021, he had one sack in 17 games. Not nearly the big impact that he had in 2019 and 2020. He had combined 11 and a half sacks over those 2 years. Still grinding it out, still durable. He hasn't missed a game in 3 years. He's missed very few games in his career. Still grinding out tackles, but not quite the dominant presence getting pressure. I think a big reason why is the Falcons have changed their defense post Dan Quinn. Under Dan Quinn, Grady Jarrett was excellent. Got a lot of pressure. Once Dan Quinn got out of there, everything flipped. And he hasn't been nearly as effective since. Now, the Falcons owe him a ton of money, and they don't owe him a ton of money if they cut him. So most likely Grady Jarrett will get cut or traded because he doesn't fit their current defense, and they need to get under the cap. And Grady Jarrett does most of that by himself just by leaving, trading, or cutting. Over the 3 years from 2018 to 2020, the guy averaged almost 2 pressures a game. And then in 2021, he averaged 1 pressure a game. But to me, there is a clear correlation between his drop-off and the change in defense. I think he's been playing some 3-4 linemen lately, and that's not his game. So this guy's going to be 29. You can't tell me he's just washed up all of a sudden. That's very unlikely, I think. PFF still likes him, by the way. They still gave him a grade of 67, which tells you that he's more or less doing his job from snap to snap against the run. But 2020, they gave him an 80. Really strong grade. 2019, they gave him a 90. This guy's a baller. And at his age, if you trade for him and then extend him to get some of that $16.5 million cap hit to a future year, I don't think you're going to feel too badly about that. So Grady Jarrett on his current contract was making about $17 million a year. If you extend him, he may want about that again. I don't know if he can ask for more because he did fall off a cliff in 2021, but he might argue that it wasn't his fault and he still wants to get paid like he's a premier player. But even if you have to extend him for like 17 or 18 million a year, you can backload it and make it work. But I'm willing to do that, and I think that if you got Grady Jarrett and Akeem Hicks, you've got something. All right, that's it for defensive tackle. Let me know what you guys think. Those are my guys. It's not great, but if you're aggressive and smart, you can make it work. See you guys later. Go Hawks.